Hello, friends, and thank you for joining us here at Non-Toxic Home today. I am glad that you are here. As always, I'm coming at you from our non-toxic home. Now, today, I actually have notes. There are a lot of things that I want to cover today. Now, I'm using this video not just as a general update, because it's been a while since I've done a video, but also to bust some of the myths about the 5G satellites. Now, for a bit of an update, we are building a tiny home. We're building a tiny home, and it's literally to save a friend's life. She is obviously turned into a client. It's a very serious situation. Right now, she's using 3 EpiPens a day. Please pray for her or send her good vibes. Also, please pray for us. Send us good vibes because this is a monumental project. It's very, very intense. Granted, it's a very small, tiny home, but it has to be done basically perfectly. This is an endeavor to save her life. I can't stress that enough. Just as our healthy home here was a last-ditch effort to save my life, and it worked. All right. So we appreciate the prayers and the good vibes. Please keep them coming. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. Now, a bit of an update as to where 2 weeks of my life went here recently. I'm recording this on October 27th, 2020. On October 6th, I believe it was, please don't quote me on that date, I started feeling really tired and run down, and I didn't really know why. My cat, my senior cat, who's about 18, also started exhibiting some weariness symptoms. And later in the month, around the 16th, I believe it was, my husband and I had an absolutely terrible day. It was one of our nightmarish days. Now, in retrospect, and looking at that date and 2 or 3 other dates this year, those happened to coincide with SpaceX launches of their 5G satellites. Isn't that interesting? My husband isn't really EMF sensitive, but apparently he is sensitive to the satellite radiation because both he and I basically lose our minds when the satellites launch. Now, I do not keep an eye on the launch schedule. I do not want the placebo effect to come into play. And also, I don't know if you've watched any of the videos on YouTube showing Elon Musk's favorite explosions, but the guy doesn't exactly have the best track record with successful launches. And one of the issues that I will address is the launches here later in this video. So that was one day this month, in which, like I said, my husband and I basically lost our minds. And coinciding on, I believe it was October 6th, again, please don't quote me on that date, I started feeling run down. In retrospect, I looked it up, and it turned out that there's a SpaceX launch that day. So we've had 2 launches this month. Maybe it was 3. I don't remember. See, I don't keep up. I don't want to know. But I do want to know in retrospect that I can attribute symptoms to those launches. So that has been difficult. Now, I lost about 2 weeks this month because I came down with, quote, the flu. I will do a video soon about what it really was. It was not a virus, and it was certainly not COVID-19. Do your research. I'll drop a link below to some of the research that I uncovered way back in March. Maybe it's February. I don't know. It was earlier this month or earlier this year, and I needed to know whether I needed to worry about it. Turns out I don't. So please do your research. It's very important to do your own research. We live in an age of great deception. So when I had the flu, my senior cat also got very sick. He almost died. We seriously considered euthanasia. He was unresponsive, just about, barely breathing. I gave him a bunch of my natural pain medicine. It's homeopathic pain medicine I'll link to below. And I also gave him a bunch of colloidal silver, which I'll link to below. and I do dilute the colloidal silver, 8 ounces of distilled water to 1 tablespoon of colloidal silver. That has saved 3 cats who were almost dead over the course of the past 8 years or so. So I highly recommend keeping colloidal silver around because of that. Obviously, this is not medical advice or medical information. These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA or any veterinary licensing association. And this is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, prevent, mitigate, or otherwise address any symptoms or diagnoses under the sun. So it was very interesting that my cat getting sick coincided to me being sick. But again, I'll discuss what it really was in a later video. You can probably figure it out because you're smart, because you're watching this video. Now we're having some difficulty as far as the supply chain goes in getting material. Usually we would get the wood from a local building supply or a local lumber yard. And the lumber yards just are really struggling to keep up with demand. We are in a construction boom. I will drop a link below again to another video in which I discussed that the economy is not actually as bad as we're being told. At least it isn't in this area, because in the Midwest of the United States here, we're having a major construction boom. It is really mind-blowing. And it's not government or medical building. This is residential building. That is the construction boom. I discussed that in another video. We've been winterizing because it's cold. I'll drop a link below to some of the heaters that we've tried over the years and what's working for us right now as far as space heaters go, because that's very difficult if you're chemically sensitive to find safe space heaters. Now on to subject at hand, the 5G satellites, myth busting. Now, a lot of people will say, because this is what they're told, this is what they're taught, that microwaves can't go very far. So because of that, 5G small cell towers must be placed about every block in cities. However, the evidence is a bit questionable. Now, the evidence that states that densification is required is paid for, generally speaking, by big telecom. So you've got a conflict of interest there, because it's big telecom that's telling us that it's necessary to have them so close together. I will drop a link below to an article I wrote recently, busting that myth wide open. Microwaves can go much farther than we are told. They can go through soil. They can go through trees. So there's that part. The other aspect is that if you look up in the sky at night, the satellites are not as far away as we are told. Just look. Open your eyes and look. In this age of deception, it is absolutely essential that each and every one of us trusts this right here more than corporate propaganda. Because most of what we're told on the news is corporate propaganda. Now, government propaganda is legal. The NDAA is not only legal, it is a law that was passed. It permits propaganda via the government and the mainstream media. And not only does it permit it, it funds it. Did you know that? If not, go look it up. Don't believe anything that I say. Do your own research, open your own eyes, and look and see for yourself. The satellites are not that far away. Just look. Now, if you're living in a city, obviously it's going to be more difficult. We live in a rural area. If you can maybe get away for a weekend to a rural area for a night or two, go look up in the sky. You'll see that those satellites are close. Those lights are bright. Oh my goodness, they're so bright. Now, the first one that I saw in November 2019. I saw that in the north, south, east, west, northwest corner. And then in January of 2020, saw one pretty much straight west of our house. We can't really see to the east because we've got a lot of trees there. More recently, there's one that popped up south of our house. Now at night, they sort of look like someone is walking through the woods. There's a hill through the wood, like basically north, south, east, through the west of our house. There is a large hill in the distance. Actually, it's a couple neighbors down. We have, 6 acres, and most people have about 6 acres around here. And the hill is basically if you look at this 5G satellite from our house, from our window, it looks like someone is walking through the woods when the satellite is moved. Now, it does not orbit. Now, that's another issue, is that they orbit. They do not orbit. Look, watch them. Open your eyes and go look at night at the 5G satellites. You'll see them because they're bright. They don't move through the sky like stars do. They're stationary there all year round. Now, they do move a little bit. And when they move, it looks like someone is walking through the woods. Like pretend this is the end of a flashlight. It's like someone's just walking through the woods. It's very bizarre to watch. And when we are in bed at night, we can see the one in the wintertime. And it is so, it's just really chilling to see it. And for a few nights, we were convinced that our neighbor was walking through the woods at night. Until we realized that's a satellite. Now, the other aspect of that is that the 5G satellites, obviously, they aren't orbiting, so they aren't in the air or the sky or space as we're being told, because otherwise they wouldn't just be stationary. There isn't really a solid consensus among those of us who exercise our brains as to how they are suspended in the air for sure. I suspect it's a dirigible, but I don't know. There's a lot of different technology that could be used to suspend them in the sky. So they're not as far away as we're told. They're not orbiting because they're mostly stationary, but you can see when they're moved because it's obvious if you're watching, obviously. The microwave frequencies don't have as far to travel as we are told. We're told that they're out in space. So they don't have miles upon miles upon miles to travel. As far as how far they have to travel, I don't know. I haven't measured. I haven't been up there and looked at them and seen for myself. But it's clear they're not that far away. And they definitely aren't orbiting. And we also know that microwave frequencies can travel much farther than we're told anyways. Don't listen to the corporate propaganda. Do your own research, please. Another issue is that some people are talking about how it's clear that some of the launches are fake. And I agree with this. There are citizen journalists, citizen reporters, people just like me and you as well, who have recorded the rocket of a launch going up, going across the land, and then going down into the ocean. However, just because that happened doesn't mean that that day doesn't coincide with the launch of a dirigible, 60 dirigibles, or whatever they're using to suspend the 5G satellites in the sky. Like I said, I don't know. What do you think? How do you think they're being suspended in the sky? Because they're not orbiting, they're not in space. They're up in the sky. They are absolutely up in the sky. They are not that far away. Another aspect that points to the evidence that there are indeed launches coinciding to these dates is the symptoms of so many people, not just sensitive people, not just sensitive folks, people who have never before experienced migraines, chest pains, heart palpitations, eye problems, confusion. Now, a lot of the reports that we've been receiving are from the Northern Hemisphere, Southern Canada, and the Northern United States. Now, here we are in Southern Indiana. I am very EMF sensitive, folks. I am so sensitive that I have not left our property since June of 2019. It really doesn't get much more sensitive when it comes to radio frequencies. As far as I'm concerned, I've had to use epinephrine because my throat was completely shut on more times than I can count because of exposure to radio frequencies. And almost every occasion, I didn't know that I was being exposed to radio frequencies. So the placebo effect doesn't apply when you don't know. Of course, there are a number of other symptoms as well, as far as anaphylaxis goes and allergic responses to EMS. But I have had more symptoms. My senior cat has had issues. Our chickens have had issues. The pollinators, oh my, I need to get my video up that I did earlier this year about the pollinators because it completely wrecked and devastated the pollinators. However, they have been trying to make a comeback here in the past month or so around us. I've seen some of the smaller pollinators, few honeybees, quite a few yellow jackets, which is great. Now, obviously, I don't want to get stung by a yellow jacket, but they are smaller pollinators, so it's wonderful to see them out and about. Now it's freezing, so they're trying to get in the house. That's a problem too. I hope that this has been informative to you and that you appreciated the update. I apologize if the update was annoying to you, but I wanted to get the information out to you, all of you, as to what's been going on here at Non-Toxic Home, what's been going on in our lives, how the satellites have been impacting us, why we haven't sent out updates much for a while, and I wanted to be sure that I myth bust some of those 5G issues with the satellites. If you found this beneficial, please like it. Be sure to subscribe to our weekly newsletter and subscribe to whatever video streaming platform this is on, because who knows how long YouTube will allow us to be up. And be sure to share this with someone or in any groups in which someone might benefit from it. Thanks so much for being here, friends. Be sure to drop a comment below and let us know if you also have been having strange symptoms this year since April 22nd, when the first launch happened. Put on the armor of God. There's a reason for this. Everything will be just fine. Just trust Him. Thanks for being here, friends. Have a beautiful and blessed day.